The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Dennis Kay with Belize Islands Real Estate. I'd like to welcome all of you to the webinar today. We have just a few minutes to go before we begin. I'd like to allow 1 or 2 extra minutes for people trying to get on who might have to download the app first. So in the meantime, if we can just go through a couple technical details. First of all, can everyone hear me okay? If you can, type in yes, either in the chat box or in the question box there. If I'm coming through clear, if there's any delay in my voice, just let me know. Sometimes with the good old internet, that things don't always work as they should. But I appreciate it. It looks like a couple people typed in yes, so we appreciate that. So good deal. So before everybody gets settled in, maybe you can grab a pen and a paper, or maybe something to take notes with. I do tend to talk quite fast during my webinars to put out as much information as I can, and you might miss something here or there, or you might have questions that I can't get to during the live presentation that we can always follow up with later on. So also, as we go through the information today, if you would, type in your questions as you think about them in the chat box or in the question box, because even if I don't have the time to delve into some of the details regarding your questions today, and I will take as many of them as possible, what I will do is make a record of these and then either get in contact with you personally to answer those questions, or I might create a video or a blog post or something like that to make sure that they're answered in full. So we'll do that today. So it's 12 o'clock Eastern time, and I see we have several people on from the United States, Canada, parts of Europe, even a couple from Belize, so we appreciate that. We'll give you just about another 30 seconds here, and we'll begin, so appreciate everybody attending. One more thing, I'm going to launch a quick questionnaire, just a very, very short one, because what I do is I tailor these live webinar events to what people are interested in and how they've heard about us. So if you would, click one of these boxes here. If you are attending today because you are already a client, you already own property in the island, that's great. Good to have you back. If you regularly receive my Belize newsletters and updates or emails, click that. Or if you saw my Belize post on Facebook, click that. And the reason I do this is so in the future, I might have different webinars for different types of attendees. So one just for property owners, one just for Facebook attendees, newbies we might call them. And so it really helps me out to know what type of content to put in here. So if you would, please go ahead. I'll give it another 20 seconds on the screen before I take it down, and we'll move right along. All right, sounds good. Excellent. All right. And I'm going to close the poll. All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Well, and I'm guessing for a lot of you, this is probably not your first webinar. And so the first thing I want to do is mention that if Belize ends up not being for you, no hard feelings. I'm not a high pressure sales kind of guy. I simply present the information and let you make your own decision. And if you've tried in the past to purchase property offshore in Belize or elsewhere and you failed, it's not your fault. You know, there's a lot of conflicting information out there. A lot of it's confusing. And many times the information overload is what keeps us from having success. That's okay. So if you're concerned that in the past you weren't able to succeed with investing in Belize or offshore, I want to put your fears to rest. You can do this. You just need the right person to explain it to you. And, you know, just one more thing, your family and friends might not understand. I know when Steph and I moved to Belize back in 2003, a lot of our family and friends had no idea where Belize was, and they had this misconception that, you know, Central America was a very dangerous place. Belize was dangerous. It's far from the truth, and ended up being just a fantastic move for us. All of our family comes down regularly to visit us in Belize, and they really, really enjoy it. So what I want to do here is just simply give you some news coming out of Belize that affects our vacation home owners and our real estate investors, and maybe show you, if you haven't already done something in Belize, how you might make it happen in the very near future. So if this sounds good to you, let's get started. First of all, how to successfully invest in Belize real estate without the risk and dangers of losing it all. And this is what I really want to focus in on today for several reasons. First of all, my goal from this webinar is to help two different types of people. Number one, those looking at Belize as a possible retirement destination. Maybe you want to own a vacation home here or end up actually moving here when you retire. So the information is going to be very specific to you and also specific to those who have no interest or desire to be on an island in the Caribbean. All they're looking for is a place to put some money offshore. Perhaps they have personal funds or money in their existing IRAs that they want to invest in Belize simply to generate a higher return. So it's my goal to appeal to both types of investors, lifestyle and financial, and to show you that through my experience of over selling real estate in Belize for over 13 years, the only way to really achieve that success and do it safely is buying vacant land and select built properties, condos and homes in the path of progress. So I'm going to focus in on a little bit of that later on during the webinar. But first of all, some very exciting news, and this applies not only to our U.S. clients, but also our American clients, and here is why. First of all, our Canadian clients have long wished for an easy way to get to Belize. Well, finally, this year we have some very exciting news for our clients living in and around Toronto. Air Canada and WestJet are going to be flying direct from Toronto to the international airport in Belize. This is huge. It means they don't have to stop over in Miami or Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, or anything like this. And if you want more information on this, I don't want to just take up the webinar telling you about different flight times and schedules. Shoot me an email after this webinar. I'll direct you to their website, both on Air Canada and WestJet, that show exactly what their schedule is. And in fact, they have some very, very good deals right now. Let's see, WestJet is, Air Canada is flying a round trip, Toronto to Belize, for $282 one way per person. So that's a very, very good price. And let's see, from WestJet is doing a $429 round trip from Toronto to Belize. Now, in addition, we're going to have regular flights from Calgary to Belize. And so really it opens up both sort of coast of Canada for us. And we know that many Canadians are buying in Belize because they want to be snowbirds. They want to enjoy the sun and fun and the island life during the cold winter months, and then go back to Canada in the spring and enjoy the summers up there. And how this affects the real estate market as far as the Americans are concerned is just, it has a huge impact because now you have millions of people in Canada who have an easy way to get to Belize. They feel comfortable there. It's English speaking. They have a lot of times a good amount of savings, a good amount of retirement to use. And so that affects property values on such a small island as Ambergris Caye. So already this year we've seen major spikes in the price of condos, homes, and vacant lands because of the airlines adding these additional flights. Now, in addition, here's some exciting news that all of you have been waiting for. The grand opening of Mahogany Bay Village is very, very close. It's coming out just in a few weeks. And this is exciting news because it's the first major branded hotel in the country of Belize. The Hilton Curio Collection is going to basically take over Mahogany Bay Village, and that's going to be a beautiful branded hotel, just a fantastic location about 2 miles south of San Pedro town, right across the Victoria House. And what this is this is not just a resort where you can go and stay for holidays, but this is also a place where you can invest. So you can buy vacant land in this resort property area. You can buy condos, townhomes, single-family homes for rental income or for retirement and for vacation homes. So it's absolutely fantastic. And what Mahogany Bay Village is also doing for us is giving us a lot of publicity in the United States and Canada and on the international market, bringing a lot of eyes to such a small island as Ambergris Caye, not only because of the branding, which Hilton is a huge brand, but also because other events associated with the brand is also bringing attention to the island. Now, for example, last week, Sports Illustrated's team of photographers, editors, and the swimsuit models arrived at Mahogany Bay Village, and they proceeded to shoot their high-profile photo shoots and promotion right here at Mahogany Bay Village. Now, Sports Illustrated, as you know, is an iconic American media franchise that specializes in sports reporting. The magazine is read by 23 million people weekly. Over 18 million of those are men, not surprising there. And the swimsuit issue, which will come out in February, sells over 1 million copies at newsstands, which is over 10 to 15 times more than a normal Sports Illustrated issue. Now, what that does for us is gives us a ton of free advertising. You got to remember, Belize is only a home to about 350,000 people, and the Belize Tourism Board has a very small budget to get our name and our presence out there in the magazines, on the blogs, in the reviews. And so something like this really can help spread the word on what a beautiful island Ambergris Caye is and bring up a lot of attention to Belize. And then finally, one more thing that's pretty exciting. This just came out yesterday that Fodor's Travel Guide has listed Belize as number 10 out of 52 countries that you must see in Central America and the Caribbean in 2018. Again, this is fantastic publicity for us. And what this does is this gets more people interested in Belize, so they travel there first on vacation, on a holiday, maybe for a week or two. They see it, and that sparks a lot of times the desire to then invest, buy a vacation home. And so really this all ties in with marketing, with property values, and with securing your spot before the market gets overpriced and out of your budget. So with those top things in mind, let's go on and see what all this has to do with clients who are contacting me on a daily basis looking to do something in Belize. And there's really two different types of clients, as we mentioned. I'd like to give you just two examples, with your permission, of clients who have already purchased property before this for various reasons. For example, Brian, he's a very real guy. He bought some beautiful beachfront property on the west side in an area known as Secret Beach on Ambergris Bay. Now, Brian is one of my typical clients. He's a younger guy, 45 years old, has a wife, couple kids. He's involved in his business. He's got a long ways to go before he actually retires. So rather than taking a big amount of money and buying a condo or a home, which is a huge capital investment, something he's really not going to use a lot for the next 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, what he decided to do is to look for an affordable piece of beachfront property. And this is what he ended up purchasing. So this is the view of the palm trees right on his beach. And this is a view looking 180 degrees on the other direction. And so what he's able to do is to come down, find a piece of property that has incredibly clear waters in front of it. He can kayak, fish, swim right from his doorstep. This part of the island has no seagrass or beach trash that washes up, unlike the east side, and he has beautiful sunset views to enjoy. Now, what he has done is he's not buying for investment. He has no plans to sell this property, but he was able to invest a smaller amount of money now so that in the future, when he's ready, he can go ahead and have whatever type of beachfront home he wants built. That can be a simple Belizean hardwood home. That can be a little McMansion. It can be anything he wants in between, but he chooses to work with whatever builder he wants, whatever architect he wants, and build exactly what he and his family need at the time they need it. So he's able to get in the game relatively easy now and set himself up for the future. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, I work with a lot of investors, and I call them non-professional investors because right now they might have their money into maybe a rental property in the States or maybe in the stock market or mutual funds or IRAs. And we work with a lot of people who have money in their IRAs, and we are helping them to invest that money in Belize. Now, this is a real investor. I've kept his name private because he asked me to, but he purchased a beachfront property using money he had in an existing IRA just about 18 months ago. And he was able to sell that beachfront property for over 90% more than he paid for it. This is a huge return. Not all returns are like this, obviously. We can't guarantee any such types of returns, but this is an actual buy and sell that he did with his IRA. And this money now is going back into his retirement fund that he can go ahead and buy something else in the island and keep doing that. The returns have been typically much higher than a person can get in the stock market. So these are the two types of people that I'm currently working with. We have those looking for lifestyle and those looking just as an investment. So this brings us up to a next point in the webinar that I think is very important, and that involves risk. Warren Buffett said, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. And a lot of people are very interested in Belize, and they've been looking sometimes for 6 months, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they just haven't pulled the trigger on it. Why? Well, because there are inherent risks in buying property, certainly in the US or Canada, but even more so in a foreign country where you're not sure what protections are in place or what information is real and what is bogus. So one of the secrets I want to let you in on is how to safely invest in Belize real estate without having the fear of losing your property, number one, or the hard-earned funds that you are investing in it. So what do we mean by that? Well, first of all, there's a couple key things that you need to know. When you buy property in Belize, you are protected by the laws of Belize, which are based on British common law. And what that means is the real estate structure of ownership in Belize is very similar to that is what we have in the United States and Canada. They offer very secure property rights and ownership rights. So, for example, if I'm a local Belizean and I own property and my neighbor is an expat, both properties are protected equally by the government of Belize. They recognize our rights to own property, and it's not a lease like you have in Mexico, and it's not based on other types of ownership like you have in Costa Rica and Honduras. It is full ownership. You have title, fee simple title, and it's very, very secure. So secure that the government of Belize backs up or guarantees your rights as a property owner. So for instance, sometimes people will ask, do I need to get title insurance? Can I go through Stewart and Title? You can get title insurance in Belize. It is available, but it's redundant because the government of Belize backs up your rights as an owner. Now you might say, well, that's fine, but I have read things on the internet where people have lost their properties, lost their savings, they become very bitter, very vocal about this. Absolutely. I've seen those too. I've heard about those. I've had clients who have experienced those because they weren't paying attention to some very key red flags that I'm very open about and I like to warn my clients about as much as possible. And here's a couple of those. First of all, beware of pre-construction or non-title properties. First of all, pre-construction. You can get some very good deals on pre-construction properties. La Serene, some of the properties that Sandy Point Real Estate is involved in, because those developers have a history, a proven track record on the island. They have done deals on the island, built things, they've come to fruition, they've given titles out to their condos and homes. These are very good investments. However, a lot of first-time developers do not know the nuances of building in Belize and certainly on a Caribbean island. They don't know the cost involved. They don't know what they don't know. And a lot of times they get themselves in trouble. So the buyers also will get themselves in trouble. So you might end up with a half-finished building. You might never see your project completed. This is a very real risk. So beware of anything that's being sold pre-construction. Also, second point, beware of non-title properties. This is important. For example, there are some subdivisions on the island of Emeritus Key, also on the mainland, subdivisions that have gotten a lot of publicity. And the sad thing is they are selling lots, they're selling properties that have not yet been titled by the government of Belize. They have promised that titles will be issued. But the fact is, titles have not been issued yet. And until those are, you as a buyer are not protected. So I've seen people put down $60,000, $100,000, $200,000 on vacant land deals, pay that money, wire that money to the company who is creating the subdivision, the developer, and then all of a sudden there's a problem with the development. Titles can't be issued, and then you're out that money and you have no recourse. So only purchase properties that have a land certificate title that is free and clear of any encumbrances or liens, then you are protected. Also, one more thing, be wary of future promises. And what I mean by that is some places in the country of Belize are trying very hard to promote themselves as the next big destination based on such things as new international airports coming in, large marinas, other large scale developments. And those promises might be well intended. There could be good reasons to believe that those things might happen in the future, so that's why they're able to say them. But if that is your sole purpose for buying that property, be very wary because Belize, it's a developing country. Things can change, they do change. And so if you're looking at an area of Belize and you like it, buy it because you like it and because you're getting a good deal on it the way it sits today. Do not buy properties based solely on the hope of some future infrastructure or some future development going in that supposedly is going to make this area take off and boom. But weigh those promises very carefully. So do your research, do your homework, buy properties that are good deals and good locations that you like now or that have a very, very high chance of developing further appreciation in the future. So what we just done very briefly is consider the secret number one, how to invest safely in Belize real estate without fear of losing your property and hard-earned funds. And now we're going to go on to the second secret, crime and safety, where to invest in Belize real estate, and how to avoid the consequences of making the wrong choice. Now, for this, we want to mention that Belize, if you just Google Belize and crime, you might run into a lot of articles that deal with very high crime rates. Now, that deals with the country of Belize as a whole primarily. So the Belize is such a small place, only 350,000 people, and most of the crime centers in and around Belize City, which is a very rough part of the country. Ambergris Caye is separated by some 40 miles of ocean. It's an isolated island out in the Caribbean. It is not connected in any way, shape, or form with that Belize City crime influence. So what you need to look at also is when you look at, as an example, I came from Michigan, and so I lived in Bay City, which is about 45 minutes north of Flint and about a 2-hour drive north of Michigan. If you were to Google the crime rates of Flint or the crime rates of Detroit, you would see that those are extremely high. But where we grew up, it was very safe. And so very specific locations mean a lot. And as an example of that, when you look at the country of Belize, look at where people are going on vacation. People tend to not go on vacation in dangerous areas or where they feel uncomfortable. Ambergris Caye, their tourism records for the past 5 years have shown consistent growth quarter after quarter. And that is not just all new tourists going, that is many times repeat tourists, repeat vacationers that come back year after year after year because it's a place they feel safe, a place they feel comfortable. Also, look at where the growth is taking place in the country of Belize. Where are the major hotels going in? We already talked about the Hilton, but also we have a large project up north on the north side of Ambergris Caye that is being branded a very, very high-end, the Wynn properties, high-end luxury properties up there. We have other exciting things going on Ambergris Caye. So when you see major hotel brands focusing in on one area that is very small, it should tell you something about how the island feels and the safety and comfortability of that island. And so really when you look at Ambergris Caye, it's a very beautiful island. It's safe, it's affordable, and it ends up being, for all these reasons, the financial engine for the country of Belize. Now, I'm just going to go through a few pictures here showing why people like the island if you've never been there before. So you have kids roaming the streets on lunch hours and after school. You find that it's an open campus, even for young kids, and they just go to and from classes on their own. So very, very safe. They also sell these beautiful little handmade necklaces and bracelets and whatnot. You also have excellent fishing just off the coast. So this is Dilza, one of our excellent fishing guides, catching a big amberjack here. So the fishing is just offshore. That white line you might be able to see just about the top of Dilza's head. That is the reef right there. So about 400 yards offshore is where the reef is. Inside the reef, you have about water depth of 6 to 8 feet. Outside, it drops down to 2, 3, 400 feet quite rapidly. So you have inside the reef snorkeling, outside the reef major diving and fishing. You also have fantastic Belizean food all over the island. It's absolutely fantastic. Rice, beans, chicken, plantains, fresh caught fish. And this is one of my favorite places, Ruby's, which is right downtown. They have excellent tacos and fry jacks and Johnny cakes and even cinnamon rolls. Beautiful place. And then, of course, here's your views. So if you are anywhere on the east coast of the island, these are your views. You have the reef line. You can see the dark waters of the ocean out there. And so if you can see yourself enjoying this type of lifestyle, so if you like the island life and you're looking for a personal investment, a vacation home, retirement home, the island might be for you. Or if you're looking for the returns, you can obviously see why people are coming to the island, and where people come, investors come because they take advantage of the rising prices. They take advantage of the rental income, the vacation homeowners, the condos, the resort properties, things like that. So let's go on to that third bullet, how to benefit from the upswing in Belize while minimizing the risk. So a lot of my clients have a plan for their future. They might be younger. For instance, Brian was 45, has my typical client is aged 30 to 35, 40. And these clients realize that they're in a place in their life where they're doing well. They have a certain set of circumstances, and they can see themselves investing in Belize, at least a portion of their funds. But they also realize that things can change in the future. And so they want to sort of hedge their bets to set themselves up so they don't get into a spot where they get hurt. There's an old wise adage that says never invest more than you can afford to lose. Well, I hate losing, so I advise my clients, don't just invest not what you can afford to lose, but invest safely and smartly and go in softly, especially in a market like Belize, and minimize your chances of having something bad happen. So whether it be a change in the economy in Belize, the change in the economy in the States, or your own economy, try to make an investment that leaves you feeling very comfortable, very happy, and that you can always get out of if need be, if your circumstances change. So I advise start simple and slow, and to make a good purchase, always look to those properties that are in the path of progress and avoid the dreaded paralysis by analysis. In other words, if you're looking today and you're looking 6 months from now and you're looking a year from now and so forth, what is it that is preventing you from pulling the trigger? Is it just that you haven't come across the right property, that you don't have the funds yet, or is something in the back of your mind preventing you from going ahead and making a purchase? So what I'd like to do now, with your permission, is just show you two options that I can recommend that allows a person to get in the ground floor safely and simply and have a very soft landing that doesn't require a big outlay of cash at the beginning. So for instance, this is a property. It's called Secret Beach. It's on the west side of Ambergris Caye. These waters here are called Ambergris Bay. You can see how beautiful they are. They are crystal clear. A lot of people come over to this side of the island to swim, to snorkel, to fish, to enjoy the sunsets, because swimming is more difficult on the east side due to the seagrass that washes up, the sargasso grass that washes up quite a bit. And I have a beachfront property just north of Secret Beach. Now, it meets the criteria of being a safe investment without much risk because it has fee simple title, so you have full ownership. It is on the island of Ambergris Caye, which is considered the #1 destination in the country of Belize. It is its own private beachfront property that you can have a home built on. You can build that home now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever your goals are. And again, any style you choose. Or it would make a good purchase for someone looking to hold it strictly as an investment, either with their personal funds, maybe they want to pull some money out of the stock market, or if they have funds in their IRA, this qualifies for an IRA investment. And it's on the west side of the island, which is in the path of progress. What we mean by that is this side of the island is getting a lot of attention right now because new businesses are going in. There's a new bed and breakfast that has opened up. There's several beach bars, several restaurants. Homes are going up in this area, and it's getting a lot of attention because not only is the west coast now of Ambergris Caye opened up due to having road access, but with the breaking ground of Leonardo DiCaprio's island, Blackador Caye, just off the west side coast, that's bringing a lot of attention to the island, to this part of the island as well. Now, the list price of this beachfront lot is $124,900. If you go to my website, you see that's what it's listed at. But on this webinar special, I've been authorized by the owners to sell it for $109,900 US, and that is only available to attendees on this webinar. You will not see this advertised anywhere else. And if that's a little too steep for you, I have another option that you might be interested in. And this is more if you're interested in something that is a residential slash commercial property that could benefit from being on a high traffic road right at Secret Beach. So again, this qualifies for a low risk investment because of these key things. It has fee simple title. The title is free and clear of any liens or encumbrances. It is zoned residential and commercial, so you can build a home with a business right on the property. It's in the path of progress, just 1.5 blocks from Secret Beach, and it's on a very high traffic road. There's only one access road in and out of this area, and this lot sits right on that road. So if you can envision yourself opening up some sort of bakery, cafe, restaurant, grocery store, anything that would benefit from having road access, high traffic road access, then this lot might be for you. The list price on this lot is $84,900, and I've been authorized again by the owner to sell it for $74,900, which is a savings of $10,000 for all of our webinar attendees today. So the reason I can do this is because if I sell it today, either one of these properties, then there are no broker commission splits, so I'm able to reduce the price of my commission since I brought the buyer to the sellers, and also we can save on advertising costs and other things like that. So basically we're taking a reduction in price from the seller as well as a reduction in price on some of the commissions and passing along these savings to our webinar attendees today. Now, in addition, for those of you working with me, I'm going to send you a PDF entitled Learn How and Why to Use International Business Companies When Owning Real Estate in Belize. So don't be afraid of the jargon. IBCs are simply like an LLC in the States. Many people choose to hold title into Belize to their properties using IBCs or LLCs, simple corporations that you can easily register, and you can see a lot of tax benefits from holding properties like this in an IBC. Also, I want to send you something regarding tips and tricks on starting and running a successful business in Belize. So I can send you both of those. In addition, I can introduce you personally to Froylan Alvarado, who is an architect based out of Belize City, who has designed homes for various clients of mine and other things such as restaurants, resort properties. Froylan is an excellent architect who knows the nuances of building homes and properties on an island like Ambergris Caye, Belize. So taking into account things such as material, the sun, the wind, the breezes, even things such as mosquitoes, upkeep, maintenance, views. So he takes all of this into consideration when helping my clients achieve their perfect beachfront or off-beach home, and he's very, very reasonable to work with. In addition, he can provide a complete set of different home options in the style of the coastal living homes, which work perfectly on an island like Ambergris Caye, Belize. So again, here are the two properties that I feel meet the criteria that we highlighted today. The beachfront property for 1099, a savings of $15,000, and the prime residential commercial property for $74,900. So if you are interested in either one of those, or if you have questions on anything that we considered today, then please go ahead and just email me. Email me your questions, email me your thoughts, your concerns, things that come to your mind, and then we'll go from there. So listen, out of respect for the day, because many of you have today off. It's a holiday that you're spending with your families, and we don't want to keep you online for too much longer. But I'm here to answer your questions. So for those of you who do need to go, you need to run, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm happy to stay on for as long as need be and answer questions from all of you. So if you would, just type in your questions during the question box, and I'll be happy to pull several. So we have one question that came up before the webinar started. The person is looking for an entry level property on Belize and was wondering what is the cheapest property they can get. So I went ahead and just created one more slide that I will share with you. So this property is about 3 blocks from the west side beaches of Ambergris Bay. It again meets that criteria of being very low risk. You have full ownership on the island. It's residential and commercial zoned, is in the path of progress, already has road access, and this property measures 60 foot wide by 80 foot deep. So it's large enough for a single family home. That's the typical size here in the island's subdivisions. It's priced at 25,000 US. So you can pay cash, of course, just one fell swoop, or if you need financing, you can put as little as $2,500 down, and your monthly payments are $242. And those are simply ran on a credit card each month until payoff. The good thing I like about financing in Belize, excuse me, is that when you finance either through a local seller, so for instance, someone offers seller financing or developer financing, many times you can get very low down payment financing and your monthly payments are simply ran on the credit card. But the good news is if you can put larger chunks of money down at any time. So for instance, tax time is coming up in April. If you get a nice $1,000 or $1,500 tax return, you can put that toward your property in Belize. That comes right off the principal, and you can pay that property off much sooner. What also I like is that sometimes the developers and sellers will allow you to stretch out the loan payment. So for example, they might do a 10, 20, or 30-year AM, but maybe you only need the financing for 3 or 5 years. Still, that's an excellent way to keep your monthly payments low at first, knowing that you're going to sell something in the future and be able to pay it off and just use the financing for a limited time. So we appreciate that. All right, so the questions, I'm looking at some of the questions that you have, and just let me pull this up. So just type in your questions in the question box, and I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. So here's a question. Do you offer bank financing? Hang on one second. Bank financing. Yep. So let's answer this one first. So with bank financing in Belize, it's a little different than what we're used to in the States and Canada. In the States and Canada, you can walk in almost any bank as long as you got 15% down, you have good credit, well, you can get a loan and it's done very quickly. With Belize banks, it's a lot different. For example, it doesn't matter what your credit score is or who you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank or what your net worth is. When you go to buy a property in Belize and you need Belizean bank financing, they require 40 to 50% as a down payment, and interest rates are typically 10.5 to 12%, which is obviously very high by US or Canadian standards. And the amortizations are on average 5 to 7, maybe 10 years. And in the 13 years that I've been selling real estate on the island, I've only had 2 or 3 buyers actually successfully go through a local bank and get financing. That's not to say it's impossible. You can, but it's extremely rare due to everything I just mentioned. And people that need financing find that it's often better to look for sellers or developers who offer financing themselves. For example, on some properties, for example, the property I highlighted for 109,000, that beachfront property, the seller is offering financing on that. The terms are open to discussion because it depends on what the buyer needs. Does he need a short-term financing for a year or 2 or 3? Does he need something long-term? What are his monthly payment abilities? So those type of details can be worked out, but keeping it between the buyer and the seller keeps things very flexible, and they can work on this together and usually create a win-win situation for both of them. So that's the deal on bank financing. We have a question here from Jared on the $109,000 property. What size would that be? On that particular property, Jared, that is a 65 feet of beachfront by 125 feet deep. So I'm not sure what that is in acres, but that's a nice sized beachfront. What happens is most of the time when beachfront property is subdivided, they start off with a larger chunk, perhaps something that's 500 feet or 1,000 feet of beachfront, and they'll turn that into something that is a lot smaller pieces to make the beachfront more affordable to more people, but still give them enough room to build a house on and not feel like you're right on top of your neighbor. For example, 65 to 75 feet is average on the west coast of Ambergris Bay. And if you go with a smaller footprint, for example, a 30-foot wide home by maybe 40, 45 feet deep, you get about 1,200 square feet per level. So if you do a 2-level home, you're at about 2,500 square feet. And you've only eaten up 30 feet of your width of your 65 feet, so you don't feel really cramped. And when your neighbors do that as well, you have plenty of land left over for a garden, perhaps a pool, which I don't know why you need a pool because you got the Caribbean right at your front steps, but that is an option. We have another question here regarding building. What are the building costs? Building costs vary depending on what you're building, how you're building it, and who you're getting to build it. For example, it seems like a lot of my clients are builders themselves. They ask the question, can I build my own home? Absolutely. You can come down, you can source all the materials yourself, you can get the building permits right from the San Pedro Town Council. It's not a difficult thing to do. What a lot of people do though is they hire a local builder to do some aspects of it. For example, to put in the footings, maybe put in the septic tanks, things like that, things that they might not be used to doing on a Caribbean island. Maybe even do the rough framing of the home in, and then they can take it from there and do their own finishing work, painting, trim work, things like that. But if you want to just be completely hands off, a neat way to do it is to go through one of the companies on the mainland that does the pre-built Mennonite style homes, so the Belizean hardwood homes. In fact, Will Mitchell just had a really cool home built in the mainland, shipped over by barge, and installed on his property in Grand Belizean Estates, which is very, very close to Secret Beach. And he said he paid around $30,000 to have it built and shipped and installed on his property, and he figures it would take another 35,000 to completely furnish it, put solar in, have all the utilities installed, such as rainwater septic tanks and sewage system and things like that. So really, for $70,000, he's going to have a beautiful, brand new Belizean hardwood home that looks really cool. And he had that put on his land, which I think cost around $30,000. So for 100 grand, he's got a nice little home right in the island of Ambergris Caye. He can be to the beach in about literally a 5-minute walk. You can take a golf cart over to the east side to go snorkeling on the reef, or he can walk over to the west side. And for 100 grand, it's a pretty good deal. So there's the information on building. Any other questions for me today from our attendees? All right. What would you recommend with somebody who has an IRA but also needs financing? All right, this is a good question because a lot of times if you have an IRA, and you don't have, for example, on that beachfront property, it's 109,000 with closing costs and stamp tax and whatnot. You're probably going to look at 117,000 out the door at closing. If you don't have 117,000 in your IRA, what you can do is, if you're married, you and your wife can own it jointly. So let's say you have two IRAs, your wife has one, you have one, you can split it. So you can go 50-50, 75-25. You can also finance the property with your IRA. So for example, you can put say $50,000 or $60,000 down, and on the balance, whatever your annual contribution is to your IRA, you can have that go as an annual payment to the seller. And so you're really funding the property with your IRA with those funds. And here's one thing I wanted to mention before when we're talking about risk and safety and minimizing the potential loss. The fact that American IRAs, individual retirement accounts, allow for foreign ownership in Belize speaks volumes about the structure of real estate ownership on Ambergris Caye. Because if it was not a safe investment, if there was risk, they would not allow it. So that's something really important to keep in mind as you're looking around. All right, so some more problems, or some more problems, some more questions for me. We always got problems, but hopefully we find some solutions as well. All right, so a couple other questions. Is financing available for these two lots? This question is coming from Steve. Yes, there is. They are both seller financed. And again, the terms can be worked out, but both on the commercial lot, close to Secret Beach, right on the main road, that does come with financing, and so does the beachfront property. So, yes, on both. On the commercial property, do you need to have a special liquor license to sell beer or wine? That's a great question, Craig. Yes, you do. And what happens is each year, the San Pedro Town Board, they put an ad in the newspaper, the San Pedro Sun, saying on this date, they will be receiving applications for all renewals and new considerations for a liquor license. And I've never heard of anyone getting turned down because on an island like this, there are a lot of little watering holes and beach bars and drinking establishments owned both by locals and by foreigners. I mean, that's probably the number one pastime on the island, except for diving and snorkeling and fishing, is sitting at a little bar and enjoying a cocktail or two or one of the local Belicans. So, yes, this commercial property, you can apply for a liquor license, and I'm sure you would get it because I've never heard of anybody being denied. But yeah, it's a very easy process, and you absolutely can do it. Very good. Let's go on to the next questions. Uh, Here's a question from John. Does the $25,000 lot have infrastructure? Okay, so this is a great question, John. And what you need to understand is that the island of Ambergris Caye is 25 miles long by 4 miles wide at its widest. And the people that have access to all city utilities, so internet, city power, city water, city sewer, those are only people that live right in San Pedro town, which is a very, very, very small part of the island, or live just south of town, going down to about Victoria House and including the subdivision of Mahogany Bay Village. So those properties have city water, city sewer, power, internet, and so forth. Once you get down past Victoria House or past 2 miles south of town, you have access to internet and electricity, but water down there is through rainwater cistern or wells, and the septic system, because there is no septic, is all by a self-contained septic, engineered septic tanks. So using bacteria to break down the waste and things like that. Now going north on Ambergris Caye, so just outside of San Pedro town, you have a bridge that connects the north and south parts of the island. Going north along the east coast of Ambergris Caye, you have access to the internet, to cable, and to power. However, all resorts on the north side of the island, and this includes the very, very large resorts such as Grand Caribe, which has 74 units, Cocoa Beach, Venecia del Caribe, Belizean Shores, Mara Laguna. all of these large resorts function off of rainwater catchment systems or wells, and they all have self-contained septic systems for the waste. This is the way the entire north side of Ambergris Caye operates. Once you start going west, you don't have any power yet. So all of the homes and businesses and resort properties built over on the west side are being built off the grid. So, for instance, the homes built so far in Grand Belizean Estates, at Secret Beach, Ambergris Bay, north and south, including the islands off the coast of Ambergris Bay, all of those are being built using solar for power, sometimes generated assist, but all of them using rainwater catchment systems, self-contained septic, and they do have internet over there, so you do have that. So it's off grid right now, but that's very typical. And our local builders, such as Armando Graniel, which is one of the island's top builders, he's become very, very good at building homes, small homes, and resorts off grid, and does a very, very good job at it. Power will be coming over. BEL, the local electric company, has assured us that they do want to bring power to the Secret Beach area, to the Ambergris Bay area, because of the potential number of clients. However, they say it's a chicken and the egg thing. They can't just start to run hundreds of thousands of dollars in power lines without actual homes to run them to, and there's just not a big enough groupings of homes yet to run the lines, put in the transformers, and to hook up. But hopefully this year, as more and more people start to build, that will change. So good question, and we appreciate that, John. I hope that answers your question. So here's another question from Bobby. How do we get on a list to be email properties as they come in the market? Only interested in entry level properties. Basically, Bobby, just shoot me an email. I can put you on my newsletter. And what that would do is every time there's a new property that comes out, I send that out. But also, I like to keep in contact with my clients personally. So if you have a certain budget or price range or financing need in mind or a certain time frame, I like to know that so I can write that down. And then when something does come up that I feel is very specific for you, I can send that to you personally. So we can do that. So let me just take a few more questions here and launch one more poll as I'm going to take a drink of water. And this just again helps me to know what type of content to send to you, first of all, after we conclude the webinar, but also what type of content to put in my webinars, depending on who's attending, who's showing up, who's not, and what type of content to put in my newsletter. So simple question, have you been to Ambergris Caye before? So there's four options. Not yet, but I'm planning a trip down. And do you have any recommendations for me? So if you click that box, I will send you a list of hotels, flights, different things to do on the island when you do come down. Next option is yes, that's why I'm on this webinar. So a lot of you are. Fourth option is I'm serious about owning some type of property. Let's chat. All right, so if you want to set up a one-on-one phone call with me in the next day or two, or if you're busy and want to do it early next week, that's fine. Or if you just want to email back and forth, I have no problem with that. And number four, nah, this doesn't seem like it's for me, but thanks anyway. So if you would, just just hit one of those buttons. I'll keep it up there for another 20 seconds, and then we'll take it down and continue on with a few more questions. So far, we have 0% that said, "Now this doesn't seem like it's for me." I imagine if you're going to be on a webinar on Thanksgiving for an hour, you are probably pretty interested in buying something. All right, I'm going to close the poll. All right, there we go. So thanks a lot for that. So any more questions? Anything that I missed? Yes, here is a question that I missed from Gwendolyn. How frequent do opportunities come available for beachfront when there are no plants growing in the water? I do not see these. Okay, so I think what your question is, what are the what is the availability of beachfront properties where there is no seagrass? So a nice sandy beach, an area where there's no seagrass, no trash. These are becoming very rare. And let me give you a real life example. I sold a beachfront property last week. It's set to close in December. And this person was looking for an additional beachfront property within a 1 mile area of Ambergris Bay. And there was none listed. at all. I didn't find any listed on any realtors' websites. And so what I did is I reached out to four different clients of mine who purchased beachfront properties in the past, and I asked them, "Would you be willing to sell your beachfront property where it is? I can help you find another deal in some other part of the island, but this certain client wanted Ambergris Bay beachfront within a certain distance from some secret beach." All four clients said no, absolutely not. They're not selling. They have plans to build, and there's no interest there. So at this time, I literally only have three three beachfront properties for sale on the entire West Coast, which is a 25-mile long stretch of beach. So three, that's it. And they range in prices. For the one I highlighted today for 1099, I have one next to there for 119, and one about a half mile north of there in a place called Sunset View subdivision, which has 142 feet of beachfront, and I think that's listed for 135.9. Don't quote me on that. I have to look it up, but just three. So that's it. Three properties. I do have a few more off-beach properties. So I have a couple properties that are about a block from the beach, starting at 60,000 US that come with financing. Those are also in a really nice area. But for beachfront, it's very rare, and that's why I can safely recommend it to my IRA purchasers, or even the strict investor who doesn't want anything to do with Belize as far as on a personal level. They're just looking for an investment, because beachfront properties, it's hard to go wrong with those. So we have another question here. How long does it take to build if you just buy land? It really depends, and I'm going to put out a qualifier there here, is that when you hear of delays in getting something built in Belize, 90% of the time it's because of the property owner, not due to the builder. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times we expect, us Americans rather, expect things to be done very quick in Belize, but really, usually it's about a 6 month build cycle. By the time you contact the builder, you give him the go ahead, and then he hands you the keys at the end. So about 6 months. But that is if you give him everything that he needs to hit the ground running. A lot of times what happens is you give him the plans, and then after he starts building, you come down and you say, you know what, I don't like this. Can you change it? And then so he has to get all those guys off the job. They go on to other jobs, and now your house sits there half finished while the architect redoes the plans, we reorder the materials. By the time the builder gets his guys back on the job, another month or two have gone by, started again, and then in the meantime, you come down again and you want to change some of the finishes and whatnot. So safely, I would say 9 months to a year if you're very hands-on and you're building something substantial. For instance, a nice 2,000, 2,500 square foot home. If you're hands-off and you have a good plan and you trust your builder, those Belizean hardwood homes can be built and installed within a month or two, certainly no more than 3 months start to finish, and even a nice concrete home can go up in about 3 months. But again, do all your legwork first, get all the questions answered, work with a good architect, meet with your builder, so when you pull the trigger, boom, he can be off and running, hand you the keys at the end, you have a nice product to use. Excuse me, just grabbing a glass of water. Let's see, any other questions here? Here we have a question from Greg. Is there a map of the two properties you are selling today? Absolutely. In fact, what I'll do is I'm trying out this new thing regarding handouts. This webinar platform allows me to hand out things. So I'm going to try to hand out this PDF. Let me see. I don't know if you just got something on your webinar viewer, but I just clicked on a PDF, and it's supposed to send it right to you. So if you received it, or if you see a button that says download it, please go ahead and do that. This is for both of those parcels, parcel 8337, which is the prime main road commercial lot, and parcel 8466, which is the beachfront lot. If you did not get those and this didn't work as planned, apologize for that, and I will send those to you after the webinar is concluded. No problem. All right. Well, that is it. You know what? It's been an hour, so I appreciate everyone attending today. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to get to know all of you better. Many of you I know in person because I've met you on the island or you bought property from me before. Others we've been chatting back and forth on the internet for a while. So we appreciate all of you and you newbies showing up too. Those of you who are just researching Belize, thank you for allowing me to spend a few minutes with you today. Just one more thing, if you would. I'm going to record this and I'm going to send you the recording. If you have anybody interested in your immediate circle, family, friends, go ahead and please share this with them. I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel. And most definitely, if you want a one on one conversation, if you have questions that you didn't want to pose here today, or if something comes up later that you're thinking about, please go ahead, email me those questions, and then we can get on Skype or on WhatsApp and chat in person and I can better be in a better position to serve you. All right, so let's see. PDFs didn't open. Will you resend them? Absolutely, I sure will, Jared. Gotta love technology. And let me see. Just I gotta shut this down. All right, and I'm not even able to advance my slides because let me just let me see here. What's going on? Give me just 1 minute, please, people. 1 minute. 1 minute. Nope, didn't work. All right, that's it. So I'm not going to be able to show you my final slide, which was no big deal anyway. But y'all have a wonderful day, and I hope to hear from you soon. This is Dennis K with Belize Island Real Estate, wishing you a great island life and a good investment in Belize. Hope to see you on island soon. Cheers.